The desert sun beat mercilessly upon the barren land, turning the sand into molten gold and the rocks into scorching iron. Yet beneath that pitiless sky stood a wooden punishment cage. Its bars cracked and splintered from years of cruel use, and inside it 2 little girls clung to each other like sparrows trapped in a storm. They were twins, their hair tangled, their faces streaked with dirt and tears, their voices hoarse from calling out a single desperate word that seemed to echo through the wilderness. "Mama, Mama!" Their cries, piercing the silence of the prairie, carried on the dry wind that stirred only dust and sorrow. Their mother, a frail servant woman from a nearby ranch, knelt helplessly on the hard ground a few feet away, her wrists bound in coarse rope, her own lips trembling as she whispered prayers to any spirit, God or ancestor who might hear, because her daughters had been thrown into that cage by the ranch owner's orders as punishment for daring to spill a jug of water meant for the horses. The cruel foreman had laughed as the cage door clanged shut, his boots grinding into the earth. And the master of the ranch, a man with wealth, power, and no heart, had walked away as though the sight of 2 children being punished were no more than the swatting of flies. The mother begged, pleaded, even offered to work through nights without sleep. But her pleas were drowned by the jeers of men who saw in her nothing but a servant to be used and discarded. The girls screamed for their mama until their little throats ached, until the sound tore like jagged knives through the woman's soul. But no one in the ranch dared intervene. They all feared the master's wrath. Yet fate has a way of bending the path of cruelty toward an unexpected reckoning, and it was at the edge of that ranch, beyond the dry creek where the mesquite trees grew thick, that an Apache hunter was moving like a shadow across the desert. His name was Tohano, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes like burning embers that missed nothing, a man whose blood carried the legacy of warriors, hunters and protectors of his people. He had not come to the ranch for work nor for trade. He had come following the trail of deer, his bow slung across his back. But when he heard the faint echo of children's cries, cries that did not belong to animals but to human suffering, he stopped dead in his tracks, every sense sharpening. He crouched low, placing his ear to the earth as though the soil itself might tell him the truth. And when another scream cut the wind, a scream broken and soaked with the word "Mama," he rose swiftly and followed the sound. As he crept closer, hidden by the tall grass and jagged rocks, he saw the cage, the twins pressing their tiny hands through the gaps, their mother restrained, and the overseer leaning lazily against a post with a whip coiled at his belt. Tohano's fists clenched. Among his people, children were sacred. No punishment of this kind would ever have been tolerated. His heart burned with rage, but his mind stayed clear, calculating. Like the hunter he was trained to be, he observed the guards' positions, the weight of their rifles, the distance between the cage and the corral, every detail feeding into a single thought. These bars will break, and those children will walk free. He waited until the ranchmen turned their backs to drink water, until the overseer spat tobacco into the dirt and laughed with another worker. And then Tohano moved, silent as wind, swift as lightning. His knife flashed once, severing the rope around the mother's wrists, and before the woman could even gasp in shock, he pressed a firm finger to his lips, commanding her silence. Her eyes widened, hope and disbelief colliding, tears welling anew, but she nodded, trusting the stranger fate had delivered. Then his attention turned to the cage. He approached it not with fear, but with fury barely chained, gripping the bars with his bare hands. The wood, thick and iron-bound, was meant to hold grown men as punishment, but Tohano's muscles swelled with strength drawn from something deeper than flesh, drawn from justice itself. The twins looked up at him, their little faces streaked with grime, their eyes wide with both fear and a fragile hope. And in that instant he growled low, a sound that seemed part human, part storm. With one mighty heave, he pulled, the wood groaning, splinters flying, iron bolts squealing in protest. The guards whipped around at the noise, shouting, fumbling for their rifles. But before they could act, The hunter roared and tore the bars wide enough for the children to crawl out. Their screams of "Mama, Mama!" filled the air as they stumbled into their mother's arms, clinging as though they would never let go again. The overseer cursed and cracked his whip, but Tohano turned, eyes blazing like fire on stone. The whip lashed out, but the hunter caught it in mid-air, yanking the overseer forward with brutal strength. His fist landed once and the man collapsed to the dust, unmoving. The other ranch hands, seeing the power in him, hesitated, fear twisting their faces. No one wanted to be the next broken body on the ground. For a moment the desert went silent except for the sobs of the children, the whisper of wind, and the pounding of the mother's heart. Tohano looked at her, then at the cage he had shattered, and in a deep, steady voice, he spoke words that carried more weight than the strongest chain. "No child belongs in chains. No mother deserves this torment. Come, your lives will not end in this place." With that, he lifted one child into his arms while the mother carried the other, and together they ran, disappearing into the wilderness beyond the ranch. The angry shouts of men, echoing behind them but never close, enough to stop their flight. For Tohano knew the land, every ridge, every hidden path, and the desert itself seemed to rise in his favor, hiding their tracks, shielding their escape. And as they vanished into the horizon, the story of the hunter who shattered the cage began, the story of a bond forged, not by blood, but by courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will to protect the innocent. And, dear viewers, if you've been captured by this tale and want to see what awaits this mother, her daughters, and the Apache warrior who defied cruelty itself, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the journey has only begun, and Chapter 2 will take you deeper into danger, love, and the fight for freedom. The desert night was their only shield, stars glittering coldly above as Tohano led Ilara and her twin daughters deeper into the wilderness, every step carrying them, farther from the cruel ranch that had once owned their lives, yet closer to the danger that now hunted them. The girls slept in their mother's arms, their voices finally silenced from crying, and Ilara whispered broken thanks to the Apache hunter who had shattered the punishment cage, while Tohano only answered, "No child belongs in chains." But even as they rested in a shallow cave, far behind them the ranch master's fury spread like wildfire. He sent riders, dogs, and hired guns, swearing that the Apache would hang for daring to defy him. At dawn, hooves thundered, bloodhounds howled, and the hunt began. Tohano knew they were coming. His ears caught the tremor of hooves, his eyes read the faintest tracks, and he led the small family across canyons and dry riverbeds, always one step ahead. But the twins grew weary, and Ilara's heart trembled at the thought of losing the man who had become their only hope. When riders closed in, Tohano stood like stone, bow drawn, arrows flying with deadly precision, scattering men who had never faced an Apache fighting for the innocent. Ilara, clutching her daughters, saw him not only as a savior but as something more, proof that the world could hold mercy as fierce as cruelty. One night, as the girls clung to him, Marin whispered, "Are you our papa now?" And though silence lingered heavy, Tohano finally placed a hand on her head and said, "If you wish me so, then I will be." Tears filled Ilara's eyes, for though fate had thrust them together, something stronger than chance was forming, a family born not of blood, but of courage. But mercy has a price, and on the 12th day, the mercenaries caught them in the open desert. Gunfire cracked, dust flew, and Tohano shielded the mother and daughters with his own body. Blood streaked his arm, yet he rose, roaring, fighting with a strength that seemed drawn from the earth itself. Ilara screamed for him not to fall, clutching her children, and in that moment she chose not to be a servant of fear anymore, but a woman of fire, standing beside him. Together they fought through the storm, until the mercenaries broke, retreating into the horizon, leaving behind only the echo of defeat. When silence fell, the twins ran into Tohano's arms, crying, "Papa!" with joy instead of fear. Ilara pressed her forehead against his chest, whispering through her tears, "You gave us more than freedom. you gave us a life." He stroked her hair gently, his voice low but strong. "Then we live together, beyond chains." And as the stars returned to witness their vow, the hunter, the mother, and the daughters became more than survivors. They became a family forged in fire, unshakable and free. So, dear viewers, if this tale of courage and love touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more stories of sacrifice and hope await you here.